All right, let's do this. What's up, everyone? Welcome to anyone who's somehow stumbled across this video in the infinite ocean of YouTube tutorials. This video is not so much a tutorial as much as it is a code through, I guess you could call it, of the example number one from the Generative Design book. Yeah, hopefully this will be useful. Hopefully this is the first of many videos where I code through the JavaScript and also code, quote unquote, code or build the network in Touch Designer as well. I use both of these programs, and I thought it would be interesting as a project for myself to sort of learn how both of them work, pick apart the examples and rebuild it in Touch. Now, I'll say that I'm absolutely standing on the shoulders of giants because, of course, part of the design philosophy of this book is that all the examples are not only available on online, but also linked directly to the code, right? That's sort of the point of the entire book, is that all the examples are written in JavaScript using the P5 JS library. And all of these examples, well, I say all, I haven't really gone through all of them, but they're all mostly done. They've been constructed in Touch Designer, and I will be leaning on these for 95% of the code. It was really just for me to pick this stuff apart. And I thought, since I'm doing this and learning some stuff, maybe it would be, maybe somebody somewhere will find this useful. Because I know I have learned almost, I just am in infinite debt to people who do this, who just take the time to put something online. And even if it helps 10 people, I have been one of those 10 people who find a solution to a problem because somebody somewhere just put their efforts on YouTube. So this is my attempt at that. All right, let's do it. So example number one. Let's have a look first. What do we got? This is a really simple one, but as with all the examples, it is beautiful, it's elegant, it's fun. Two controls in this one. It's actually kind of hard to see because there's a no cursor on. Let's just turn that off real quick. So as the mouse moves from left to right, the inner square grows. That's it to fill the background. And more interestingly, as the mouse moves top to bottom, we get a complete cycle through all of the hues, which is a big hint in that we're using HSB color space as opposed to RGB. And most notably, the inner square is the exact complementary color of the background. That's the whole purpose of the beginning of this book, is all little sketches that center on exploring color. They're just fantastic. Anyway, let's do this. I'm going to be using CodePen for at least the beginning of these examples, for reasons. Let's not get into it now. Let's get to it. So I'll create a new pen. We're going to leave the HTML and the CSS for now. We might come back to the CSS a little bit later to solve a bit of an issue. We head over to our settings. We go to JS, where we can include any libraries. CodePen makes this fantastically easy to include any library. Literally just type in P5, and click on it, save and close. I'll brush over a lot of this stuff. I'm sure not entirely sure what level of experience I'm aiming for in these videos. Hopefully people have some experience with CodePen if they want to do some front end, development, and if they want to learn JavaScript, you're going to come across CodePen at some point. And even with P5 stuff, I don't really want to explain everything from the beginning, but if anybody ever has any questions, by all means, leave them in the comments, and I'm happy to answer them. So two most important functions in P5 are the setup function and the draw function. Setup happens once at the very beginning of your program, and draw is the main animation loop where most of your code will go. Setup is where we create our canvas. Now the example has a canvas size of 720 by 720. If we look over at that, we've got our 720 by 720. Let's run this thing. That's going to be too big for our purposes because I am zoomed in a little bit. So I'm going to make mine 640 by 640. In fact, hold on, before I do that, let's see it. Background of 0. 0 will set the color to be black. If you pass one parameter to background, it's interpreted as a value between 0 and 255, where 0 is black and 255 is white. Again, if you're brand new to P5, let me just demonstrate that real quick. White background and black background. Now, because I'm zoomed in, that's all going to be too big. So let's see if I can get away with 640 by 640 here. Yep, CodePen will complain if you haven't named or if you haven't saved in a while, which is nice. All right, let's take care of the excuse me. Let's take care of the inner square first. I think that's probably a good place to start. Yeah, see, it's too. If I zoom in there, it's too much. Hopefully that's fine. All right, so there is a square function command in P5 that takes an X position, a Y position, and a size. So we can do width divided by 2, height divided by 2. Width and height are built-in variables that always contain whatever the width and height of your sketch are. Width and height divided by 2, and I'm going to hard code it and give it a size of, it's going to be too small, 50. No, let's do 200. Which should make it clear that a couple things, right? By default, the fill color of your shapes is white. We can change that, of course. And most notably, that by default, squares, rectangles, and I think text all draw from the upper left corner. We don't want that. We want to be able to draw from the center, right? So our X position and Y position will be interpreted as the center. And all we do there is give a call to rect mode, passing this this value center. And now we have our thing. Let's use mouse X as a value. Mouse X is another handy thing that P5 gives us, which is just always the X position from left to right, and that completely solves the first part of the sketch, right? So our size is 0 when our mouse X is all the way over on the left, and as our X goes from 0 to 640, so does the size of our square. Sweet. All right, now next problem. Having the mouse Y control the hue, right? Now by default, P5, in any place where you can put color, it's a very versatile library, right? So if you put one value, it'll be interpreted as a value between 0 and 255. 0 is black. Where did that go? 0 should be black. Quick refresh. Okay. And 255 should be white. Yep. If you put 3 parameters into background, they'll be interpreted as RGB. So, which with each value going from 0 to 255. So this should be full red, no green, no blue, and we get a giant red background. If we zero out the red and zero everything out, we should get 0, 0, 0, which is black. And if we did no red, no green, all blue, we'll get blue. Great. But as many of you probably know, RGB is a rather unintuitive way of dealing with color. And if we want one value to be cycling through all the colors, what we actually need is to change the way that those values are interpreted in P5 to HSB, hue, saturation, brightness, right? So this function, it can be put in draw as well, but since we only need to call it once in the entire sketch, we just put it in setup. And that will make it so that these values are now interpreted as hue, saturation, brightness. Now HSB by default will have hue go from 0 to 360, saturation go from 0 to 100, and brightness go from 0 to 100. So let's turn up our saturation. We'll make our brightness full. 0 to 360 will go all the way from red through all the spectrum to red. In fact, if we look up like HSB color super fast, we'll find any of these are good, but here's one. So full brightness, full saturation, and that actually starts at the wrong point. Where's one with numbers? Here's one with numbers. 0 is red. As we go through from 0 to 360, it'll go through every single color and then get back to 0. So we could do something like this. We could just put our mouse Y into the hue parameter, right? Mouse Y is 0 at the top of your sketch and increases as you go down. So we should get red at the top as we go down. We cycle through all the colors, but this will cap out at 360, which should be what, little past halfway of our sketch, right? So 0 at the top. When we get to a Y value of 360, it'll cap out and then it just stays there. So what we actually want to do is map. We want to rearrange this, right? Any touch designer programmers will know that the math object, the math operator is probably the most useful operator in the entire software. And the way we do that in P5 is let's create an intermediary variable, and we'll say let's map the mouse Y from, this is the from low value and from high value, from 0 to height. Remember, height is our value that contains this number. From 0 to height, that's our input, and our output we want to be from 0 to 360 because that is the range of our hue. And then let's plug this in here. So now as our mouse Y goes from 0 to the height of the sketch, we should get a full range from red through all the colors and back to red. Nice. Okay. And then what we'll actually do for the inner square, actually two more things. We can well, let's create the opposite color. Let's create a variable as well. Square color is going to be 360 minus the background color, right? So that it's the opposite. As our background goes this direction, our square is going to go this direction. And we'll plug that into our fill for our square. So same thing, we're going to be square color, and we want a brightness, saturation of 100, brightness of 100, right? The fill command changes the fill color of any shape that comes after it. This is how P5 works. So any squares that come after our rect mode center will be in this drawn from the center, and anything that's after our fill will have that fill color. So let's try it. So square gets bigger as you go left to right, and square also changes from red to red as we get there. And that's it. And the last thing we need is to get rid of the stroke around our square as well. Yeah. And that's it. There we have it. Now, this, if we take a look at this code and we compare it to, I'll just say this, I hesitate to say this, the code that they have here is less, right? Look at our draw function in this one, 3 lines as opposed to, you know, more, 7 lines, right? I guess they moved some of this up into the setup, which is fine. One of the reasons that I wanted to code through this is because there are some places, if I can be so bold as to say, that I think some of these examples skimped on best practices, I suppose. Like, for example, this code uses a lot of hard-coded numbers. They've put I mean, first of all, they've used rect instead of square when we really could use a square, and cut out one of the parameters here. That's minor, but more sort of egregious, I guess, is the fact that they've hard-coded 360, so that if we change the size of this canvas, sorry, it's my cats in the background, and now we try it, everything kind of breaks. So while it's hard to call these examples wrong because they are the OG original, you know, these are the source of these examples, they're just a little bit brittle, and I think they could be coded a little more clearly, especially for beginners. You know, a couple intermediary variables that have descriptive names go a long way, I think, especially for newcomers. Anyway, that's all I'll say about that. There's our first example. Done. Complementary squares. That's better. Save. That's it. Oh, no cursor. In the example, you can also pass no cursor if you like, and that will hide the cursor whenever it's over the sketch, which provides a different feel to it. I personally like seeing the cursor just so I know where it is, but for the sake of accuracy and completeness, that's that. Last thing on the topic of accuracy and completeness, I'm going to make a video walking through this process separately. All of their sketches have this little, if you press the S key, it will take a screenshot essentially of your sketch and let you save it. Now, in all of the examples here, they actually use their own custom library that has a timestamp function on it, so that when you save it, it will create a timestamp with the date and, you know, the date, the time, the milliseconds, right? Now that's something that they've actually included. GD stands for Generative Design. That's the name of the book. So in CodePen, we don't have that. And it's not hard, but it's in depth, and it probably doesn't need to be put in every single video. So what I'll do is eventually I'll make a separate video on how to recreate that in just, you know, vanilla JavaScript and P5. And I'll also do that for Touch Design as well. All right, I'll leave it there. This is 15 minutes for a very simple example. That's probably too long, but this was my first tutorial ever. So apologies if there are mistakes and errata, and I rambled for a bit too long. I'll leave it there. Thanks for stopping by, and hope it helps somebody. Bye.